Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mean Green Gridiron podcast. I'm your host, Billy Sierra, and I'm joined once again by the lead actor in 2021 Dune, Carter. Carter, how you doing?
White Boy of the Year, 2 years running. Uh, Huge
Three?
honor. I don't think I won it in 23.
Oh, okay,
That
gotcha.
was
Yeah.
that was Corey Seeker.
That was this. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. No, doing good. Been a minute since we last joined, but enjoying the holidays and the stress of the holidays. Working a whole bunch. Just trying to stay busy. College football does not matter to me anymore, so trying to fill that void in my life with some other pleasantries. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, doing okay. Doing okay.
good. Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you haven't finished your Christmas shopping yet, I'm. This is a public service announcement to further induce your anxiety that the deadline is
Mhm.
fast approaching and you're potentially screwed. So
Yep.
good luck to you on that.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. The time is now, and also as soon as you get all your Christmas shopping done, New Year's is right around the corner, and then you have to get ready for Valentine's Day. Um, so lock in.
That's true. Yeah, pull a Dwight Schrute and get all the reservations booked now so you can auction them off
That's right.
for Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Last time we talked, like Carter mentioned, unfortunately, it was before the dreaded conference championship game loss. That we all know how that one went. We know the ref calls and the bad start, turnovers, all that. Just not a fun experience. And then also we had just gotten off hiring Neil Brown. Since then, Neil Brown has put together a bit of a staff. Sounds like he's got his defensive coordinator in place in Matt Powledge from Baylor, who's kind of been there DC, not calling plays a little bit under Dave Aranda. So that's gonna be an interesting hire. It's not a lot of people are have mentioned that it kind of feels a little bit Capone esque, and hopefully hopefully not. But we'll let Carter, our resident Baylor expert, opine on that. But again, he's put together a staff. He's got is it Ray Gates from North Crowley High School, their head coach, coming over. That should be a big boost to local recruiting, and hopefully, Chris Jimerson, that pairing can kind of continue their legacy, and a few other hires, but not a lot in terms of recruiting just yet. We still have transfer portal window coming up January 2nd, the second signing day coming up first Wednesday of February. So a lot to occur over that next month and a half time period. But Carter, what are your kind of early thoughts on what you're seeing with Neil Brown and the future of the North Texas football team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm as happy as I can be with the staff so far. I'm not as glued into the high school world as a lot of you guys are. I tend to gravitate away from recruiting and all that. All the high school landscape just isn't really my scene. But I have heard that the North Crowley hire is good for Jimerson and good for us. I've seen a lot of people who are not UNT fans say, "Oh wow, this is kind of a unique and good hire for them." And I say, "Okay, I'm going to trust your opinions because I don't watch high school football." But yeah, it seems like these are some good moves that he's putting together. Um, I really don't have any opinion either way about Palage. Like you mentioned, I unfortunately do have a slight rooting interest in Baylor football, and we have the head coach who was the defensive coordinator of possibly the greatest college football team of all time. Uh, and that has not translated into a subpar Big 12. So I don't really know how to feel about Palage coming on down, but I don't know how much influence Aranda has calling defensive plays and schemes. So I'll reserve judgment until next year, like we've kind of pined for the last couple of years. The standard offense here has been, we're going to score points. We're going to be a reliable 30 to 40 point output every week. So can we just not have the worst defense in college football? And we didn't this year, and look what happened. So um, I mean, I guess my expectations are just kind of the same. If we can, put together a top 90 to 95 defense, then I'll be happy with the hire. But yeah, I've followed along with pretty much everybody we've hired so far. I think I'm all caught up, at least as much as I can be with the inside sources and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did we talk? I think last episode we kind of just talked briefly about like Neil Brown and
right.
what he brings to the table. So I've already given my thoughts there, but I still think that was a hire that I was talked into, and I didn't really want to hire that I had to be talked into, but I was talked into it. I'm on board. I think it's a good hire. Unfortunately, I was there was not a complete lack of seriousness when I said college football is kind of dead to me. It's I would be lying if I said the conference championship didn't kill, at least temporarily kill my interest in kind of keeping up with all the coaching stuff because it's just depressing. I'm watching James Madison and Tulane in the playoff tomorrow, and not us, and that is really sickening to me. So it's been hard for me to kind of really get nitty gritty into the coaching hires, but
Yeah.
I have kept up the last couple weeks, especially with work and everything. So um, overall thoughts on at least as far as catch up as I am for Neil Brown's hires, or as caught up as I am, I meant. Uh, seems like we'll be okay.
Yeah. And look, that's the truth. These are kind of the raw emotions I think a lot of people are feeling. I'm expecting that not as many people are going to listen to this episode just because I think what Carter's saying is true. But if you are listening and you're, whether you still have a ton of enthusiasm towards this Mean Green football program and team, or whether you're listening and you're just kind of whatever, might as well. Whatever your enthusiasm level is right now, I think it's all relatable. There's
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all experienced some degree of that kind of roller coaster of emotions of, is this, is this program, just like the doomer mentality of like, well, is this as good as it's ever going to get? And it wasn't even good enough, or now their best
Yeah,
players are going to leave. Like all that stuff is very real. It's very human, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring that up and just gloss over it and pretend, went on like robots and pretended like that wasn't a
yeah.
part of the college game today.
Yeah, and I another factor that has really kind of soured me these last couple of weeks is, like you mentioned, we're about to head into the transfer portal, and I'm seeing all these graphics where it's like players are agreeing to contract extensions, and like their agents are working out like deals for them to extend a 1 year stay at a school. And I'm just like, dude, the sport's cooked. We've known it was cooked for a while, and it's kind of like we said all year, where we've had to spend the entire season, the greatest season we've ever experienced in terms of wins, all year has been kind of nullified by pretty much everybody outside of Denton going, okay, well, let's see where their quarterback ends up. Let's see where their running back ends
Mhm.
up. Well, their head coach is going to get a really good job. And it's just like, it's, I mean, yeah, we have been kind of burying the truth there, which is, just the reality of what our program is and probably will be for a long time is going to be fodder for these bigger schools. But all year we were just kind of, at least I was, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but kind of living in that denial of like, okay, well, we can, this can be a chance to take that next step and kind of define ourselves as a program. But like, even Tulane and James Madison are both going to lose players to bigger schools after this year. They're both, their coaches have taken better jobs, so that has softened the blow a little bit. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I spent all year just kind of hoping like, man, if we can just retain a little bit of this, and especially as far as the wins go, going into this lane game, I said it on the preview pod, and I've said it 1,000 times before, where it's like, this program needs to start taking itself seriously and winning some of these big games. And I definitely hope that anybody who's completely tuned out now. Like the bowl, I'm still excited for the bowl game. I would rather us not be playing in the New Mexico Bowl after an 11-win season, but it is what it is. I'm still gonna watch. I still care. That's not what I meant to imply at all. Is that I'm out, but yeah, these last couple weeks of watching all these players get, you know, like professional deals basically. Like I saw some A&M receiver yesterday had had some graphic posted where it's like the highest paid wide receiver in A&M history. I'm like, who? What are we doing? Like, I don't know. It's just the whole sport feels so fractured and nonsensical right now. It's I use the word sickening, and I gutted or just terrible. It's terrible that we spent all year getting really excited about, like, okay, what if we just made it into the playoffs? Like, this is a real opportunity. Like, who cares if we win or lose? Nobody, like, we didn't care about the outcome at all. Just getting in was the dream. And not only did we not get in, the team that beat us in the American Conference Championship game got in, and the team that we spent probably the entire month of November trying to convince everybody we were better than, they get in and we don't. And so, yeah, just my interest has curtailed temporarily as far as like optimism goes. As far as I'll be able to look back on this season with a fonder memory very soon. Uh, right now, it's just the vibes are kind of and I think that I want to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about the bowl game here in a little bit, but it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like I don't really have anything to say. Like until we start winning these games, and until we do something in the modern era to establish ourselves as like what we want ourselves to be, which I think extending Jared Mosley is one of those things. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Those are the things you kind of have to do to leave your mark right now in this whatever landscape of this sport it is, which is not good right now. So yeah, that's where my thoughts lie at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with Jared Mosley getting extended, I think that's helpful because I think we talked about this last time, but like the Neil Brown press conference was actually, maybe we didn't talk about the press conference because I think maybe he hadn't had it yet. But
I
yeah,
don't think we
he had
did. Yeah.
it. No, so going back to the Neil Brown press conference, I know the saying is that every coach wins the press conference. You
Hmm.
get the point that there's not a lot of it's like a draft, an NFL draft. You always feel like your team got better, and for the most part you're happy. But with his press conference, I was really impressed and felt better than I did about Morris or Luttrell's press conference afterwards, where uh, with Morris, he and Luttrell both said the exact same thing when it came to hiring defense coordinator. They both exactly, almost verbatim, word for word, said, "Oh, I'm gonna hire a coach. My philosophy is to hire coaches who are hard to play against, hard to coach against." And for Eric Morris, hearing that after Seth Luttrell, I was kind of like, "No, don't. That's a flawed logic." And I wish that someone would kind of push back on him on that one, or one of his bosses would say, "Hey, here's why that may not be a great idea." I know people who were there for the Todd Dodge era may remember that he said kind of the same thing with his high school coaches. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to bring most of the South Lake Carroll coaches because if you're a good coach, you can coach football. You can coach football at any level." And a lot of people felt, had reservations about that statement, and they definitely came to be true as far as him not being a great decision. So all this to say, there are certain things that coaches can say during press conferences that can be red flags and raise some concern. And having an athletic director who has the continuity, who has been there, who has seen those different press conferences in a landscape of college football and college sports where it's so year to year, I think that is valuable. It's nice to have that. And further with Neil Brown's press conference, I thought that his familiarity with UNT and Denton was on a completely different level than anything I've ever seen out of any other coach we've hired before. Whether it was Morris, Luttrell, McCarney, like they took the job, they learned about the job as they were interviewing, and there's just no comparison though compared to a guy like Neil Brown who spent so many years coaching against North Texas in the Sun Belt Conference. He knew Brett Vito. He coached against us in the 2017 bowl game. Like he knew Denton. He knew he coached at Fouts Field. I bet if you asked Seth Luttrell and Eric Morris, when they were starting to interview for the process, if they could name the previous football stadium, they probably wouldn't have known Fouts.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not giving enough credit, but regardless, like Neil Brown knows Denton, he knows the program. He's like as intimately familiar coming in as any coach we've ever had, and I think a lot of that um, is promising. I think in an era of transfer portal heaviness, I think he's made a statement both in his coaching hires and during his press conference that he wants to build this thing with high school recruits. And I think we just saw with Morris that is still the way to do it. Like I know transfer portal is always going to be huge going forward, and you do need to find the right mix. But we saw Wyatt Young lead the conference in receiving yards. We signed him out of high school. Caleb Hawkins, true freshman, we signed out of high school, lead the nation in rushing touchdowns. Obviously, Mestamaker, we brought him out of high school as a walk on. Like the high school recruit is still super paramount to this program. And I think that is how you build at this school. And then you supplement that with portal guys. And look, just because they may leave, and that sucks. And it makes it hard to go all in on high school and say, well, we want to recruit these guys so they become the next Drew Mestamaker. Well, that means, having like one good season and leaving like that. I get that's tough, but regardless, I still think that these guys, like they have the ceiling that in the portal it's kind of hard to get, because in the portal you kind of already, these guys are more known commodities.
Right.
What caliber player they are. So again, there's multiple things. Also like guys who are coming out of high school, I think are a lot more committed to the program in terms of like that's what they know. Whereas guys who come out of the portal maybe just kind of looking to improve their stock and then find a better spot somewhere else. But regardless, Neil Brown's press conference, I thought that he said a lot of things to me that made sense for this job and felt tailored to being the North Texas football coach, not just a coach coming in, looking for any, the best job he could get. So, yeah, I like that. Do you have any other takeaways about Neil Brown or press conference or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll say it in a second, real quick, just so you know. You kind of cut out there like
Yeah.
twice. Just put a marker down for like when you're editing, just so you know. Um, but yeah, no, I agree. I don't know how credible of a report or whatever this was, but I did see like a couple days before we hired him that somebody on Twitter was leaking that he wasn't really interested in a G5 job. That wasn't
Right.
really something on his radar. Um, Again, we like to have our mean green glasses on and prop up our school and say good things and kind of brag, but at the end of the day, it's not a job that anybody is dying for. I think he probably would feel the same way. Um, his last stop was at a very relevant P4 school. Um, I watched the press conference. I'm excited to hear what he has to say, and I believe that he wants to be here. So yeah, that's good. I'm on board with that. But uh, I think part of the thing I really wanted to focus on with this coaching hires, I was hopeful we could get a guy that could really get his feet planted here, and kind of why I'm so bummed about Morris leaving is just I think you have to strike gold with a 5-6 plus year tenured guy. You kind of look at these schools like Memphis and Tulane and uh, other G5 schools. Look at what well, I don't know how long Sig was at JMU, but you either have to have like immediate just nonstop success like he did, or sustained pretty good success over a 5 plus year window, to kind of get into that, kind of like we talked all year where like JMU kept getting ranked ahead of us pretty much solely just because of their name. It had nothing to do with their resume or what they were doing on the football field. As I know they're a good team, but we were better. Sorry, at least during the regular season. Um, so to get into that conversation of like your name kind of carrying that weight, I was hoping that we could get somebody who I really, really feel confident will stick around for a while. I, again, not to make any judgments on Neil Brown. I don't know him. I liked what he had. Everything he had to say in the press conference was good. But given where he's been and what he believes in, I feel like if we have a really solid, 2-3 year window here. He's probably going to take the next P4 job that comes calling, and if we succeed, then that probably won't be very long. So I don't know. It's not to, again, not to rush to judgment before he even coaches a game here. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying. I think the most important thing is that we need someone who's going to stick around for a little while and kind of like we talked about after all those wins this year. We got to maintain the momentum and have someone who can kind of carry that over into the new era. That was the quote they used when they hired him. It's a new era. So um, yeah, I don't know. I really like what he has to say. Like you mentioned, it's kind of funny that he does have those ties to Fouts Field and some of the reporters who have been here for a while. It's a familiar place. I like that he joked about the New Orleans Bowl. Um, he seems like a fun guy. What's his thing? Trust in the climb. I trust the
Yeah,
climb.
just the climb.
Yeah, I'm into it. So uh, yeah, I again in the same way I'm not going to rush to judgment before I pitch this game here. I'm tempering expectations, but uh, everything I've heard from him so far is thumbs up for me.
Yeah. I think with that, we can kind of go into the bowl game. So, first kind of transition point, kind of what we're talking about, state of college football stuff. And as it relates to this bowl game, I I like the messaging we're hearing. And I think a lot of fans are probably going to disagree with me. And I totally get that. But I think you have to be able to understand what era we're living in and just relatively speaking, we it's just you can't compare it to 10 years ago or whatever. But right now, all the messaging we're hearing about our guys is that they are playing. They're going to play the game. Mestamaker sounds like he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan Weslowski was just announced that he's going to, mull his decision after the bowl game, which to me that translates to he is going to enter the portal after the game, which is total like, I get it. Your coach left, your defensive coordinator left. But the fact that these guys, it sounds like they're on board as a team to finish this game and try and get the 12th win, try and win the first bowl game in, 11 years, 12 years, whatever it is. But again, I think most fans will probably hear that and say, roll their eyes like, wow, they're playing the bowl game. That's, that should be a given. I think most fans would probably say, but again, you have to temper your expectations. It's otherwise you're just this news is just all going to suck. News after news is going to just get you down, and like it's going
Yeah.
to be hard it's going to be hard to stomach. And maybe it still will be even if you're expecting it. But like I said, the fact of the matter is, I was thinking once we lost it that we probably wouldn't see Drew Messamaker in the bowl game. Just guys got supposedly $3 million NIL deals on the line for next year.
Yep.
Like it would totally be understandable. I watched Old Dominion play South Florida. Both of their quarterbacks are in the portal and did not play in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, those are two of the top G5 quarterbacks this year besides Mestamaker. So it's normal and it's common and I get that it sucks. It's definitely not good for the game. Hopefully that there's some changes coming to the game and some regulations in place that make it a better product than what it currently is. But as far as just how it is right now, I think these guys are going to play in the bowl game, and I think that's huge. It says a lot about what these guys, what this school and this program and this team means to them. And I think as a fan, I get that you might roll your eyes at them coming back, like just like we talked about, an A&M receiver announcing he's coming back with that I get that doesn't sound fun, or it's harder to get excited about, but I think, look, if these guys play this game, I think, I'm not saying everybody needs to fly out to New Mexico and be there, but I think these guys deserve our support. I think that they
Yeah.
gave us such a great season this year and going for 12 and going for a chance to have a ranking next to our name in the final ranking is huge too. I mean, when you go
Yep.
back and look at the rankings and you see North Texas was ranked, at the end of the year, because that's all you people look at is the end of the year rankings. Um, nobody goes back and looks at the week 5 top 25 poll. So I think that's huge for the program. We talk about, building, like those are the kind of things that do build. You go into the recruiting season with your team, in the top 25 poll for the next, 9 months or whatever, until a new one comes out. I think that's helpful. It's good for the program prestige and all that. So,
Yeah, no question.
but yeah, Carter, what are some of your thoughts kind of early on looking into this bowl game, San Diego State? I know you haven't looked, you said you haven't done a ton, but what are your kind of initial impressions as far as, maybe not the best bowl destination or sexiest bowl game, but more so the opponent, I think.
Well, I certainly don't want to come across as snobby because, for one thing, we never win these postseason games anyways. But secondly, I with how begrudging and uh, frustrated I am after the Tulane game. Uh, I'm not going to sit on a podcast and be like, oh well, think I think we can handle these guys and blah blah. Because again, like I don't want to sound like a whiny baby, but like just I'm kind of done getting really excited about these big games and just losing all of them. Like you have to win one. Just that's all I have to say. Like San Diego State's a good team, and they had an okay schedule this year and did fine. They can score points. They have an okay defense. I don't know. I've ran through their schedule a couple times. They destroyed Cal before they had fired their head coach, which was of interest to me. But then Cal was also not good at the time. I don't know. I did notice that we both played Washington State, and we beat them, and they didn't. And other than that, I mean, they're just kind of a good 9-3 team. You can run through their schedule. They've won a couple close, like low scoring games. They've hung 40 a couple times. But they're definitely good. They're capable of figuring out how to beat teams. And yeah, I mean, Sean Lewis is a good head coach. I talked about him in my big Google Doc preview. He was one of the. I think he's in year 2 or 3. He's not a first year.
Yeah, I think it's year 2. Yeah,
year 2. But he was the guy that did okay at Kent State, which is not a program you can really win a lot at, and he's got San Diego State turned around really fast. So good head coach. I talked about him in my preseason preview. Like him a lot. I don't know. I have nothing else of substance to say about this game. Really, I am optimistic that we have some of our guys going, and I think this is a team we can beat. But I really, in the moment, if I was a little bit more separated from the Tulane game, I'd probably have more things of substance to say about this game. But right now, I don't. I'm kind of, I guess, fatigued is the best word, because I just I have literally done the last 3 years. We've played two or three postseason games. Talking about it on this podcast. And as a fan, since I've been a student here, we've gone 0-10 in postseason play. 0-10. So it's just like at a certain point, I can look at San Diego State and be like, okay, well, yeah, they have a good offense, and they can move the ball well through the air, and they've played a really, really sound defensive season if you look at their points allowed. But they haven't played an offense like us. I hope we can win, and I have nothing else to say. I'm tired of getting excited about these games and losing. So please win. But yes, I think if you want my cumulative take about San Diego State, I think if we are at full strength on offense and everybody plays, then we will probably be the best offense they've played this year by a wide margin. I am looking at their schedule right now. I don't know who the second best offense they played would be. Maybe Boise, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know if there's any like truly lethal attacks in the Mountain West right now, and they didn't play UNLV, so
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So they're
I'm fine about it, I guess.
Yeah, so they're Carter mentioned they have good defense. Their defensive coordinator has left, so he took the job at Nebraska. He's going to be their DC now. So they had really good results this year. 5th in the nation in points per game. They're only allowing 13.7 like Carter mentioned, maybe not getting the best, the best tests offensively for their defense, but that the way I look at San Diego State is I think that they are very similar to Western Michigan. I think they're a very similar team in terms of play style, in terms of talent level. I think they want to play that same style. And look, that's honestly been this team's like biggest weakness has been, a team like Western Michigan or team well besides besides South Florida, but these teams who just lean into you all game and just run with run with a lot of power and have offensive line and running backs who just kind of wear you down as the game goes on.
Right.
I think San Diego State is a pretty much a perfect example of that. They have a running back, Lucky Sutton, who has 1,200 yards. I haven't seen anything that he's not playing, but if he plays, I think that's going to be one of the better backs we faced. Again, they're ground and pound defense, similar to Western Michigan. They don't have a great passing attack. Their quarterback, 1,800 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 picks. Jaden Denegal, he came from Michigan, but again, I don't think that they have a great passing attack. That's what you want. You want to be able to force them into passing situations, whether it's a third and long, whether it's getting them down a couple scores like that. That's going to be the key. Is if you can, the more passing you force them to do, the better your chances of winning the game go up, and go up by a good bit. I think if you're playing from behind or it's constantly 2nd and 4, 3rd and 1, then yeah, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have a problem getting off the field. But Skylar Cassidy, to my knowledge, is coaching. He's going to Oklahoma State. It'll be really interesting to see who all is coaching and playing and who's not. Unfortunately, we just don't know that right now.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Jordan Davis, who took the East Carolina offensive coordinator job, I think he's still going to be calling plays for this one. The good thing about coordinators is that they're not as much like head coaches where they have to go to the new job. They can finish out the bowl game.
Yeah.
So I think Cassidy will probably still call plays. Like we talked about, Weslowski, our leading tackler, is going to play, and then maybe transfer after, maybe not. But regardless, I think it's setting up pretty well for us in terms of like people being there, ready to play. And Eric Morris talked about in his press conference at Oklahoma State. He mentioned he didn't do a great job of managing the two jobs, and on the surface level, we thought he was doing it better than John Sumrall because he postponed his press conference. But it sounds like between the lines, I think Morris maybe didn't handle it great, and he kind of mentioned that he didn't do great managing those two priorities, and it did seem to show, in my opinion. But again, I think now that you've got Drew Svoboda as the interim coach, I think that at least for the bowl game and the bowl prep, it just feels like the guys are in place now. Like there's not that uncertainty. There's not that whatever. It's like we've got one game. We're gonna go play it. We're gonna go. These are the guys we're gonna play. These are the guys we're gonna scheme for, and then let's go make it happen. Let's go win. So I do feel good about that.
Yeah.
Is there? Let's kind of talk about under the assumption that Mestamaker plays and Wyatt Young plays. Caleb Hawkins probably not, just because he got hurt in the bowl game. But
against Tulane.
Sorry, yeah, in the conference championship game against Tulane. What do you think about in terms of just like what kind of game you expect to see from our offense? Again, playing a good defense, but without Eric Morris, but potentially with most of their main guys playing. What kind of offensive performance do you kind of see this one, strength against strength looking like?
Yeah, I mean, watching all these bowl games every year where they just matter so they matter to varying degrees to the teams that play them. A lot of the times when the head coach is out, the teams that are left behind will just mostly try to stick to the same system and formula that has worked for them all year, obviously, and not try to get too weird with anything. Again, we're running under the assumption that everybody's playing, or most everybody's playing, and it's going to be a relatively normal 2025 UNT game. If that's the case, I think again, like I said, I think San Jose or San Diego State. I've noted before this podcast, I was like, I'm going to say San Jose State 10 times. They're right next to each other. And they're both S blank SU's. Um, San Diego State, who we are playing, not San Jose State, has a sound defense. If again, under the asterisk of if everybody's playing, I don't know what their transfer situation looks like either. Um, I think it matches up well for us as a team that we can move the ball on. Obviously, not having Hawkins would be a pretty brutal blow in terms of what he opened up for our passing game, especially as a dual threat running back. But I think this is a team we can beat. I think it is a nice neutral location for both teams, so there's no real home field advantage. I think we'll hopefully be able to get enough people out there that are still optimistic about ending this year on a good note. I will not be. I would be able to make it to this game, but I have family plans, so I cannot go. Otherwise, I would have. But I feel okay about it. I don't feel like this is a game where we're probably. Has the betting line opened up? Are we favorites?
Yeah, we opened at 6.5, but we've gone down to 3.
Okay, that's about where I would probably feel comfortable putting us. Um, it's not a game where I feel like we are going to blow them out or anything like that. I realistically I probably see this one ending in like the 28-30 type or 30-28 type range, 31-28, 32-30, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be competitive and pretty fairly matched. I think where we're ranked kind of right now in terms of, again, just knowing who's on the team and knowing what our status is for one more game, I think we are very appropriately ranked around the 25 range to 30 in the country. I think we are a stout top 25 to 35 team.
Yeah.
And that gives me confidence going into this bowl game. Having said that, I have been excited for bowl games in the past and big games, and we have not shown up. So last time we were in the New Mexico Bowl, we lost by 40 to a team without a head coach, and I hope it goes better than that time. That's how I feel about this bowl game.
Yeah. I think one thing that I always kind of call, like, jokingly refer to the bowl games as is like the freshman senior bowl games, where it's like a lot of the guys you see in these bowl games are seniors. Like, standouts are like seniors who, hey, it's their last game. They're not worried about the transfer portal. Like, they're just trying to play their last college football game and go out on a win. And then obviously freshmen who it's like guys who maybe redshirted during the year, or they played a couple games, or their role kind of increased throughout the year, but they don't have the stock to necessarily hit the portal right away or be thinking about their next stop. They're still just trying to make a name for themselves. Obviously, sure. Last year there was no better example of that than Drew Mestemaker, and he coming off of technically a red shirt where he played some games in garbage time. Came out and was kind of one of the main stories of bowl season last year, outside of the college football playoff games. But you also had Miles Coleman last year at the bowl game, true freshman, had over 100 yards. You had Damon Ward, like I said, senior, playing his last game, had 130 yards against Texas State. So you get those kind of performances where it's like, these are these guys' last games, or these guys who are still hungry, trying to make a name for themselves, where maybe they've been a backup to a guy all year long, and then that guy hits the portal and it's like, oh shoot, I get to actually play now. That's one of my favorite things about bowl season, is you see those kind of guys, amidst all the other people you see leave. So with that, I think in particular, a couple guys that I'm looking at for this game is Cameron Dorner at receiver. I think he has had a really good year. He's coming out of Shepherd, moving up from the Division II level, 845 yards, 6 touchdowns, second leading receiver on the team. I want to say that he has put up more yards this year than we've ever had our number 2 receiver put up, 845. Usually that's more like a number 1's kind of numbers. So he's been huge for us this year. I think he's going to be a guy who they're going to target more this game, and hopefully put him out on a good game to end his college career. Another guy defensively who I'm really looking forward to seeing play this last game is Will Jones. Will Jones has
Yeah,
had a really solid year at safety. Again, he's a senior. There is no transfer portal for him. He had, I think 2 picks against, I think in the same game against UAB. Like he's been a huge steadying force to our defense in the secondary, and he's a guy who, again, I think is going to be an impact kind of player. And I don't think there's any doubt that he is going to play in this game, and he's going to, hopefully make a big impact. And then, some of these offensive line guys, Tay Yanta at center, Gabe Blair at left guard, Jim Tobadegua at right tackle. Like you've got you've got some seniors who like I think they're going to give it everything. And um, you've got a really good group of seniors who have, some have just come here for a pit stop, and some have been here for 4 or 5 years, like Gabe Blair, and who are, trying to end their UNT careers, on a high note. But that's what I'm really looking forward to is seeing how these guys can do. And then at running back, like I said, if Caleb Hawkins doesn't play, got injured against Tulane, what does that look like? Ashton Gray has shown some really good flashes, both in garbage time and then even last week against Tulane, playing as kind of the main back. Kiefer Sibley has played well. So it'll be interesting to see how certain guys step up there. But yeah, I think my pick to click this game is going to be Cam Dorner, like you said, on offense, and Will Jones on defense, just because I think they're guys who've really led the way this year and really been steadying factors. And I think they deserve to be rewarded with, big spotlight and a big chance to make plays here in the bowl game. So with that,
I
do you have
agree.
anything else before we go into kind of score predictions?
Nope, I agree. I think this is we've said all year these are the guys that came here to win a championship, and you can still technically do that.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot emphasize enough how tired I am of losing postseason games. It's getting to a point that is unhealthy for a program like us to continually lose and lose and lose in bowl games, and we need to win one. You have to put a trophy in the display case to show recruits that you can
Yeah.
win games that matter. Um, I am very proud of the team that played this year, and although it sucks we are not in the playoff, and it sucks that we are not conference champions, you can still end the year on a great note. And like you mentioned, there are a couple guys, um, Will Jones and Dorner are two great examples that are, I would love to have a fun, positive farewell memory of. This team needs a bowl win.
Yeah.
Just win a bowl game. That's all I have to say. I am optimistic that they can do it. But yes,
Yeah. And I think one thing about the bowl games is that for the most part, and the conference championship games, I think for the most part, we've been underdogs in most, if not all, of those games that we're talking about that we just cannot seem to get over the hump.
that's
Like I
true.
think this time, I think this is the best team, and we said that against Tulane too. But you're not playing a road game, which was unfortunate aspect of the Tulane game. As a in addition to the ref, some of those calls that were made and the fumble with Drew
Yes.
Messmaker for we don't have to rehash that. But again, like I think this is your best chance in terms of like you're playing a team that you're better than, and there's obviously a lot of variables, coaches leaving, players potentially not playing. Like some of those variables are very material, and you don't know how they're going to go until the game gets played. We're not going to know who's not playing until the game is kicking off or shortly before. So
Yeah.
it's tough to read that, but I think if we get the turnout of players that we think we're going to have and that we assume they're going to have, I think this is your best chance. Look,
Yeah.
another one that I thought we should have won was the Miami of Ohio game back in 2021. Like that was a beatable opponent. But
Correct.
then the next year you played Boise State. Like that was, we played them tough. But like that again, you get the point. Like a lot of those games, or even Utah State with Jordan Love at quarterback, like these were tough. We've always had tough matchups,
Yeah.
or
True.
conference championship games. We've always had to play them on the road. We had to play
But
Florida
I
Atlantic.
want the tough matchups, and I want to win one occasion. Like the tough matchup doesn't bother me. Just like I
No,
don't.
for sure. Yeah, and yeah, maybe tough matchup is wrong way to put it. I mean, Navy was a tough matchup. We beat them,
I know
but I
what you
mean,
mean. Yeah.
yeah, tough matchup in terms of like the cards are stacked against us. I don't think the cards are stacked against us this time. The cards were stacked against us when we had to play UTSA in San Antonio for conference championship game, or when we had to play,
Sure.
like I said, really good like Troy or Utah State team. I don't think the cards are stacked against us this time, and I think that this team really needs to make it count and capitalize. And I think they're going to do it. I really do. I think that um, Drew Mestamaker is he's the quarterback of the team. He's arguably the leader of the team, even though he's still a redshirt freshman for one more game. But I think the guys are kind of going to follow under his lead of saying, hey, he's mentioned it a few times, both in press conferences and kind of the stuff we've seen released, where he's like, I'm just thinking about the next game. Like I tell my agent, like, you just handle that stuff. I don't want to hear about these offers or what. Like I just want to focus on like my next football game and
Yeah.
for the football team that I'm playing with, and like that's kind of underappreciated in this game because if he transfers anyways, that's all people are going to remember. But to me, like, in between the lines, those are the kind of things that I think, stand out and kind of separate, relatively speaking, certain guys who are 1 foot out the door versus guys who are, maybe transferring, but are trying to win as much as they can while they're here. So,
Yeah.
again, with that, I think that they're going to follow his lead. I think he is going to be all in on this game. I think he wants to win this game. He's going to treat it just like all these other games that have been huge, that he's poured his heart and soul out on the field. And then with their defensive coordinator leaving, you talked about it before, that they haven't played an offense like us. I think North Texas is going to take this one.
Is their DC's gone? Did I miss that?
Yeah. Their DC's at Nebraska, or going to Nebraska, so he's not going to coach in this game. So with that, I'm going to go with a score of 35-27.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to my 30-ish range. I'll say 34-30 final. I don't know who's gonna win, and I don't want to pick. I'll say 34-30. It'll be a good game. I think from a football perspective, it should be an enjoyable bowl game. I actually, I failed to mention, I actually won't be able to watch the game in real time because my flight back to DFW from Christmas is like 30 minutes before kickoff. So when I get off the plane, I hope I pull up my phone and see a good score, and then I'll rewatch the game that night.
All right. So what I'm hearing is we need to create a Patreon. Let's get Carter some. Let's get Carter.
Give me some in-flight Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The ticket doesn't pay me enough for in-flight Wi-Fi, sadly, but
funded by the UNT taxpayer.
Sure.
But all right, man. Well, thank you for thank you for that, Carter, and thank you for listening. If you made it this far, really appreciate it. I know this was this wasn't as fun. the vibes weren't as high as they've been in the past.
It's always fun with you, Billy. Always.
No. I just mean, I get the circumstances. So if you listen this far, then I think you're a real one, and we appreciate you. And with that, go Mean Green.
Go Mean Green.